Hello and welcome back to another episode of Come Over for Dinner. I'm so excited you're joining me today. Today I have a very special guest. It's going to take a long time to introduce her because she is amazing. Her name is Allison Ryan. She has 7 children, grown children, and 23 grandchildren. The oldest one is 9. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. She is a very busy, is it grandma or what are you called?
I'm a Grammy.
Grammy. She's a very busy Grammy. She came from Canada years ago on a track scholarship to the University of Idaho. Her friend who told me a lot about her, Michelle, she says that she always has little interesting things to tell about Canada, and it just makes the conversation so intriguing. She also said about her that her kids have said that through their lives, she was always singing, which is such a great quality. And I happen to agree. More things about her, going back to track. She was a runner at the U of I, and she has records in the 100, 200, 400, and 800 meters. In fact, the 800-meter record held for 23 years. Her son is now a runner and is following in her footsteps. In fact, Adidas is paying him to train for the Olympics for the summer of 2024.
Yes, very exciting. Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So I came to U of I and I met Lisa Leidenfrost, who was Lisa Payne back then. And she was the one that led me to the Lord. I wasn't a Christian, but Lisa Leidenfrost, most people probably know Chab and Lisa. They go to our church here in Moscow. And Lisa was the one that, told me about Jesus, and I became a Christian my freshman year, maybe sophomore year of college here at the U of I, and went to Christ Church back when it was called, I think it was called Living Faith Fellowship, something like that. Oh, no. It was not called that. Strike that. Community Evangelical Fellowship, that's what it was. And we met in an auto body garage. So
Okay, how interesting. Yes, so you've been here since a teenager. You came to the U of I, and you ended up staying. Mm-hmm. Did you stay because you loved the community or because you met your husband?
Yeah, I met my husband here. He we're both from LA. I'm from Lethbridge, Alberta, and he's from Los Angeles. And we met here in Moscow and got married in, I think, my junior year of college. And it's been just wonderful ever since.
How many years have you been married?
We have been married now 41 years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned to me earlier that the reason you came on a scholarship is Canada doesn't offer scholarships for sports. And so a lot of the students at U of I on a track scholarship were from different countries.
Right, all over the world, yeah.
That's so interesting. I did not know that. Mm-hmm. So she continues in her track glory. How many years have you hosted the Fun Run?
It morphed. So we started out in the 1999 with these giant harvest parties. We'd have the whole church over, but back then or whoever wanted to come. So usually it's 150 to 200 people would come over, and we'd rent giant Percheron horses and have a hayride. And what I would do is I would bake potatoes, and I would have everybody, and I'd make a big giant vat of chili, and I'd have everybody bring toppings and a dessert. So it made it very festive with all these lovely apple pies and desserts, and it was sort of a cheap way to feed hundreds of people. And we'd also have guess the weight of the pumpkin contest, guess how many candies are in the jar. And then we would have a giant bonfire, and of course our big potato dinner at the hayride. And then we'd have a race around the back 2 acres, and part of the race would go over a little tiny metal cow bridge, and it was so much fun. But I also was going to tell you that I made so many mistakes in the beginning. And I'd write down the mistakes I made on a little card, so I'd try not to make them the next year.
Notes to yourself.
Notes to self. Running out of toilet paper, running out of water because we're on a well. So I thought, okay, we need to have a porta potty. There's just too many people flushing the toilet. And then I learned that, okay, people use 3 or 4 forks, and 2 or 3 spoons, and 2 or 3 cups. They don't just use 1 each. So I made sure that I had to really stock up on that. So those are mistakes
those are great
I made.
Tips.
Yeah. And that's when our kids were young, and so we did that harvest party probably for 10 years. And then Danny, my son, he's a doctor now down in Clarkston, but my Danny went to NSA as well, and he took over the harvest party and did it for the NSA students for a while. And then it turned into the Fun Run, in November on Thanksgiving morning. And we call it the Freezing Buns Fun Run.
Because it is freezing here.
It's freezing.
That time of year. It's not like the South.
Yes, yes.
Where it could be nice and sunny.
Yes. And so people come, probably from 100 to 150 people come, interestingly enough, they show up. And we have a race, a 7-kilometer race around the back roads. And we also have a 1-mile race. And there's prizes for all the age groups, fun prizes. And we have a giant bonfire and we hand out the prizes and everybody goes home happy. So Meredith Wilson and I, for years, my husband is a starter. He uses a real gun and starts the race. And then Meredith Wilson and I, for years, we would handle the results at the end of the race. But after about 12 years, we were getting kind of old and freezing up so much that we could barely,
calculate.
Yes, we could barely calculate the results, and we were starting to make mistakes. And so we thought, I don't think we can do this anymore. We're just getting too old. So the Anderson family is now taking over the fun run. Tyler Anderson and his family.
That's
it's
so
wonderful.
Fun.
Yeah. So just this now they've taken over because we're just getting too old and too cold.
Too old and too cold.
So that's
what a great memory and what a great tradition to carry on and for someone else to take the torch.
Yes.
What kind of prizes did you hand out, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so we had, what I would do from the year before. Oh no, after Halloween, I'd go to Winco and buy all the leftover candy. So these giant bags of candy would be 75% off. Mm-hmm. And I'd bring those and save them for Thanksgiving. And so everybody would get a giant bag of candy. And I don't know if parents appreciate that or not, but
but nevertheless, there it was.
Mostly chocolate, yeah. And,
hey, you can always freeze chocolate for later if you wanted to.
And then the overall winners would get like a fun hat and gloves or something, And what else? Yeah. Oh, and then James Engerbretson, my son-in-law, a couple of years designed a really spiffy T-shirt that everybody enjoyed, and that now they're collector's items.
Of course they are. Snatch one up if I see one at Goodwill. Well, in that same vein, she was a coach, a cross-country and track coach for Logos for 17 plus years. Through her coaching, the team won several state championships. And tell us about what you did every weekend for your
Oh, yes. Well,
class.
Yeah, I just love coaching the kids, the Logos kids. I just love them so much. And I can just barely stand not to coach now, but I'm just getting, kind of old,
Well, and also 23 young grandchildren are probably pulling a lot of your time.
But I would have them over, most weekends. They go on their long run and then they come over for pancakes afterwards. So lots of pancakes and sausages for the cross-country kids. They just work so hard. I admire them so much, and it was just amazing. And they won over the years. I think we won 5 state championships in the cross-country and a bunch in track too. Yeah, a lot of individual.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was but I just love that age.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, such a great age.
Such a great age. Did you coach high school or junior high?
Yeah, well, at the beginning, both, and then it got to be so big that we had divided it up. Yeah.
So track is in the family. Other sports are as well. I'm sure when your 7 children get together, there's a lot of competition at Thanksgiving and Christmas if there's any yard games.
Yes. Oh yeah. That's what the kind of the theme. Well, our family is, like I was talking to June Kern and she said, I'd be so disappointed if my children weren't artists. I said, wow, I would be so disappointed if my children didn't learn how to play tennis. Just a different kind of family vibe, or be good at, something like that.
So now, is that what your pastime is? Do you love playing tennis?
Tennis,
yes.
Tennis
is the thing you do.
Tennis,
okay.
yeah. And maybe we'll try pickleball because, like I said, we're getting old.
It is very fun.
Or do you do it?
I've had some of my sons pull me out there, which you think, it's for older people. Oh no, those teenage boys are out there, and young adult boys are out there doing just as much as the older crowd, which I guess I have to put myself in that group now.
Yes.
But so, they love it. So they pulled me into it and told me how to play, taught me the rules about the kitchen.
Yeah. Oh, yes, the kitchen. Stand in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So, and that brings me to the kitchen brings me to another fun memory. Well, my husband, for his job, he has a lot of workers, and he has engineers, and he has a couple times a year we have all the engineers over for giant parties. And for several years we called it the Goat Fest, where he'd have all his men come over. And these men are from India, Africa, all over the world. Some are Jewish, some are Muslims, a lot of Hindus. And so I'd have these giant parties, and one of his best friends was from Ethiopia, and he ran around in the communist army, and what they do is they're fighting, I forget what country, Eritrea, I forget. Don't quote me on that. But they'd cut off a giant metal garbage can, and roast a goat in it when they're on the run, in the army. And so his friend wanted to do that. And he'd roast a goat in the backyard, and all the people from all over the world would come. And then one year we had our Indian friend in the kitchen cooking the goat in a giant pot. They'd cut it, they'd butcher it in the backyard and bring it on in. And our Indian friend, I forget his name, Satish or something, in the kitchen cooking, and in his bare feet, and fabulous. It tastes much better if you just cook it on the stove for hours, He's in there cooking. And who knew that there was still the caste system? I didn't know this. It's still alive and well in India, the caste. They really go by that. And so we had our other friend who is higher caste, a Brahmin. He would not come into the kitchen when our other friend, who was a little bit lower caste, cooking. So he wouldn't eat with us. And so that was a big thing. Who knew that? I had to keep that in mind for the next party. And
so did he eat by himself, or he wouldn't?
By himself.
Would he even eat the food prepared by
No,
that?
he had brought his own little food in Tupperware, but he wouldn't go near certain people and that kind of thing. So I thought, wow, I got to be more prepared for these situations.
Yeah, think through all the different cultural dynamics. That is so interesting.
Yeah.
So does your husband work at a local company where these people moved here from different
they're all
countries?
from all over the world on the H-1B visas. And then one time he had, for that same guy that was from Ethiopia, he had a big party for him where he got a citizenship. That's a big thing. It's really hard to get your citizenship, really hard. So it was a big party. And it was really hard for me to get my citizenship. It just takes years. Yeah. Anyway. So all from all over the world. So those were always quite the parties.
And interesting food. I bet you got to experience lots of different flavors and tastes. And I've never had a goat cooked in a metal trash can.
Really chewy.
That. I can imagine, because I bet the one on the stovetop, or was it low and slow on the stovetop?
Yeah, that was much better.
It
tastes much better. Yeah.
And the roasted one on the run.
Yeah. and then you all, I don't know if you know about engineers, but they can be quite a quiet group. And there's a joke my husband always tells. What is it? Let me think. He says, what's the difference between an extroverted engineer and an introverted engineer? And the answer is, well, the extroverted engineer looks at your shoes when he's talking. So I'd have parties where I'd have 20 engineers sitting around a table, total silence. And my husband's the only one that's trying to, get the conversation going. Yeah. Although several years ago, Paula and Joe Casebolt, he's an engineer at the company where my husband works, and they started coming to the parties, and it was just new life. Somebody else who would talk and visit and join in. And then
you had to stagger those Casebolts between a lot of engineers.
Yes. And now lately it's been Joe and Jen Farley, who are they're just the life of the party. And so our parties are much better lately.
It's a good thing to think through. Invite some guests.
Yes, that's important. Somebody who's going to talk.
Even if they're not a part of maybe a friend or something, just to help carry the conversation.
Yes, that is important. If you want a good dinner party, you got to have somebody who's a good conversationalist. Yeah,
because it's hard. It would be hard for you in the early days to help your husband carry the conversation if you're in and out of the kitchen.
Yes.
You're pulling dishes to the table, or you're whisking plates away, or whatever.
Right.
You could do that a little less.
Yes.
And be less of a help, less of a support.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like so much fun.
It is fun. Okay, so what I've learned is, with those kinds of parties, I stand at the door. Well, everything's ready. I always have the table set. Everything's ready. And I stand at the door. And as people come in, I hand them a stiff drink.
Do you even ask what they want, or you
No,
just have a
I just have it ready because there'll be Mormons that come through, and then of course I have non-alcoholic for them. But I just hand everybody that and have music, and if they have something in their hands, and that's really helped get the party going. It's just right there at the door.
That's a great idea to just, here you go.
Yeah,
and then,
welcome.
Of course, you may know they don't drink alcohol, and so you'll hand them the mocktail.
Right, exactly.
Yes. Otherwise, they're ready to go.
Yeah,
they got something in their hands. They can come in and start visiting and have something to do with their hands.
Yeah, that's really helped. Yeah, for all groups, that's helped for all groups. Yeah,
Those are great tips.
Yeah.
Well, she and her husband have remodeled houses, and they have remodeled the farmhouse that they currently live in, which was built in 1890. They've done a ton of work to turn it into a home where they can host not just their family, but they've hosted rehearsal dinners and weddings and lots of other events. Yes. So tell me a little bit about that.
Let's see. Well, yeah, lots of weddings and lots of rehearsal dinners, and we made lots of mistakes there too, but maybe people didn't notice so much with those.
They probably didn't. They probably just thought it was the most beautiful event ever.
Right. Like the last one we did, in July, our youngest son got married. And the bride is just this fabulous gal from Los Angeles with a, fabulous family, wealthy. And then before in the past, when we do tables in the backyard, we've gotten away with our dead grass because we use those big round tables. And it covered up all the grass and beautiful white tablecloths. It looks fabulous.
Yeah, you don't even see the grass.
No, you don't even see the grass. So I thought, I've got this made, no problemo, because the grass is extra brown this year. No rain.
Nice and crispy.
So then on the day of the wedding, I'm looking down out to the backyard, and the tables, and it was a fun arrangement, but they were long tables with exposing a huge swath of brown grass in the middle, and it just didn't look good at all, in my opinion, although I bet you, looking back, probably not many people noticed, but I thought, wow, that's just really some brown grass out there.
It really stood out to you.
Yeah, to me.
When all the people got there, everybody's filling up that big swath of grass,
right.
So I'm sure no one could even see it.
Yes, I'm
all
sure.
The guests were standing around milling about.
Yeah. And it was lovely weather, and we made it really pretty with flags and lights and good food, and so it was fine. But there's always something that you kind of think of that goes wrong.
When you host big events like this, do you try to do most of it yourself, or do you call in help?
Yeah.
How do you host such? We're talking about quite a bit of large events.
Right.
Whether it's parties, rehearsal dinners, weddings.
Right. Yeah.
That
So
would be daunting to a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a good question. So yes, I have had lots of help from my poor girlfriends over the years. I'm thinking of all the rehearsal dinners. There they were, slaving away and borrowing all their dishes. And they probably made most of the food. And there they are in the kitchen doing the dishes, serving, clearing, just all the, a lot of relying on my girlfriends to help with a lot. Been just so great. And then Donna Grauke said one time, I think it's probably just cheaper to go to a restaurant instead of like renting all the tables and the linens and all the food and then relying on the slave labor of your friends and on and on and on. I think it's just cheaper to go to a restaurant. And I think she's right. Easier for sure.
Once you came out of the freezing cold and started calculating.
Yes.
Like, okay, maybe she's right.
Yeah.
That's also a good option to think through.
Maybe weigh it out.
Weigh it out and see. Should we have this catered, or should we do all of this ourselves?
Right. So we've mostly done all these years, all of it ourselves, but with lots of help from wonderful friends. Yeah.
Those are good friends. Well, she currently hosts Family Sabbath Dinner every week. And did you remember that I mentioned she has 23 grandkids? 9 and under?
Yeah. Yes.
So her weekly Sabbath dinner has 23 plus all the adults. So you're getting close to 40 every week?
Yeah, it's 30s, 40s. Yeah. It's a big group. So that's also changed and morphed over the years, where in the younger years, it was just, the kids and our family and a few, friends. And then it turned into the young adults, and everybody started getting married. And that was fun, because the young adults would stay and do the dishes, and then, and they'd have a nice social time in the kitchen doing the dishes. But then as the children come, you don't want them to have to, they need to get home and put the little ones to bed by 7:30. So you don't want them to have to do the dishes. So what we do now is that we have our meal, and then at 7:00 we have a race, and all the kids line up, and we race around the whole property, which I think it's only like a quarter mile, maybe not even that. I don't know. And then there's prizes for them at the end, and then it's time for them to go home.
They're worn out, send them home.
Yeah. And
Bath time
then,
and
so
bedtime.
therefore, the dishes situation has changed where I do a few. My husband's really great with really helping doing the dishes. We do get a few loads going, and then mostly we wait till the next evening, so we have our Sabbath, and so we have a bit of rest, and then so there is a lot of dishes hanging around till sometimes Monday, but it's okay. I know that's a stage too where, At first I thought, well, maybe we could hire people, but then I guess it does say, "Thou shalt not do any work, thou or thy manservant." I was trying to figure that out.
So you typically have your dinner on Saturday night?
Yeah, we have it on Saturday night at around 5:30, and I do the same thing where people come through the door, and I have a cocktail ready, and then we have our dinner, and and it's kind of chaotic. It's really chaotic right now with all the kids. Very chaotic.
I can imagine.
Yeah, three or four high chairs set up, and we have a big kids table. The kids table's gotten huge, and the big adults table, and lots of people, lots of fun. And I think that the whole family really looks forward to it. And I try to have it every Saturday. Oh, and kids bring food. All the kids bring food. Somebody will bring bread. Somebody will bring a casserole. Or usually I do the main thing, but people will bring bread and the sides.
Mm-hmm.
So they help me that way.
Send out a text to kind of coordinate?
Yes, I have. We have our Ryan family updates, and we say, okay, here we go. I'm making lasagna, and could somebody bring bread, and somebody bring some drinks, or so everybody, salad. That's it. Salad, dessert. We have, because some people are really good at the salad, some are really good at the dessert, and so it all kind of comes together. So I get a lot of help that way.
Oh, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. What is one of your favorite dishes that you might serve when all of your family's coming over?
Okay, yes, we've been trying so many fun things. So I made lasagna recently, and tri-tip is a favorite one where Costco, I wait till the price comes down a little bit. I don't buy it when it's up to $9 a pound, but now it's so good from Costco, the tri-tip, and I just either barbecue it with Becca Merkel's marinade, or I'll bake it in the oven, and it's just a dream. It just turns out, no matter what you do to it, it just turns out nicely.
So what is a good sale on tri-tip that you look for? I know this changes.
Well, it's down to 6 now, 6 something, but it'll come down to 5 something during the winter. And so it's just so
That's
good.
A hot tip.
Oh, yeah. It's just the most delicious meat from Costco, in the world. Yeah. So.
They carry very high quality cuts.
Oh, yeah. And tasty. Mm-hmm. So, that's a good one. And then what's another one? We do the curry where you 12 boy chicken curry where you add all the toppings. That's a fun one for the whole family. And the other night we did street cart chicken I think it was from Smitten Kitchen. That was so good, so delicious. The turmeric rice and then let's see, peanut butter skewers. That's a really good one where you. Yeah, and shish kebabs, and there's different marinades for the shish kebabs. We just try all sorts of different stuff. And
just whatever strikes your fancy that week.
Yeah, and I'll ask my friends, any ideas? And they will have tried something. And
so we all share recipes.
Right, with, Meredith and Lori Ditton, and we all share different ideas.
So if you're not sure what you want to make, do you have inspiration from a certain source? I know you said friends, but do you have a favorite cookbook or a favorite blog or any particular place you might look?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the cookbook. It's called The Best of Bridge. It's a bunch of Canadian ladies from Calgary, Alberta that put together a book. They were bridge ladies, played bridge, and they put it together a really good cookbook.
Reminds me of one of those old-fashioned church cookbooks.
It is. It's like that, yeah.
The Bridge Club.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Cotton Country Collection. I have that. It's the Junior League collection.
Yes, it's like that.
They did a lot of those cookbooks back in the day. I don't know if they do anymore.
Yeah, there's lots of good recipes in there. Like the committee. There's one called the committee salad, and there's a line from my favorite movie, Chariots of Fire, where they're all sitting in a room, the King of England, and they're all in his cronies, and they're trying to decide whether to let Eric Liddell run. And one guy says, "That is a matter for the committee." And We are the committee. So anyway, that is, the committee's held. That's a good one from the Best of Branch. And then another cookbook, of course, is, it was Nancy Wilson who gave it to me. I think it's called Perfect Recipes for Having People Over, something like that, by Pam Anderson. Because she shows you what to make and then what goes with it, like this salad and this dessert and this hors d'oeuvre and this drink goes with this, meal, this lasagna. And it's just right there for you. And I found another one of her books called Meals Where You Make It in One Pot. And I recently made this for a French dinner party that I threw for a bunch of teenagers that won it at an auction. So French dinner party, it was coq au vin blanc. And it was so delicious. And she tells you what to do for the salad, what to do for everything. And so it was a great success, that one. So Pam Anderson.
Yes, that actually.
And of course,
when Nancy did her episode, that was one of her favorite cookbooks.
Yes.
And one of her favorite recipes was out of there. So I actually have that one posted on my website.
Oh, you do?
On the shop page and at comeoverfordinner.com. And I have it on my bookshelf. My mom gave it to me.
Oh, yes.
And I looked through there and thought it was fabulous as well. There's so many good ideas, but it also gives you ideas of an entire menu and what wines to pair with it if you were doing wine. And it's just kind of a comprehensive view of the whole menu.
Yes, it's great. And then
great ideas.
Yeah, really great. And then, of course, Smitten Kitchen, all Deb Perlman stuff is really great. And Ina Garten. And
lots of good sources there. So do you have any particular shortcuts or time savers you might use when you're cooking? You mentioned lots of menus, so I guess it would just vary depending on which menu you're using. But some things you might start ahead of time or freeze. But do you have any just general things you do to prep ahead of time before people get there?
Yeah, I try to do everything ahead of time. So what I have to do is for the Sabbath meal, I really have to start shopping on Thursday, get all my food. And then on Friday, I set the whole table because I think you have to be physically fit for this job.
You do tennis. Do you exercise?
Yeah, exercise.
Speaking
but
of energy,
yes.
we need to know the secret because I know you have not found the fountain of youth. Ladies, those who are listening, she has so much energy. How do you have this much energy? I love it. We need to know your secrets.
Oh my goodness. Well, just do a couple deep plunges in the morning and play tennis and go walking. I don't know yet. But yeah, I think you do have to be fit to do the Sabbath meal because especially when you get older, I spread it out. So like I say, Thursday, I do the shopping. Friday, set the table, get everything ready, house clean. Saturday, start the cooking. And so have everything ready to go. So and even some things I have to cook ahead Friday. But Saturday, I don't want to have too much because there's so many components like the drinks and the hors d'oeuvres and that you have to have ready. And yeah, it is physically taxing, but especially, like I said, as you get older.
Do you make a point to exercise every day? Because you've mentioned staying physically fit, which I think is very important. As we age, if we don't take care of our bodies, they do start to fall apart energy-wise or whatever. Lots of strength, we lose our strength. We do have to really think through that. So do you make a point to say, okay, today I'm going to go on a walk or today I'm going to go play tennis or does it just kind of happen naturally since you were a runner?
Yeah. Well, earlier on, I think I ran every day probably until I was, like probably five or 6 days a week until I was probably 42. And then I got an injury, and then I just played a lot more tennis. So mostly tennis is every other day. And then we have stairs in our house, and so I try to run up the stairs and things like that.
And what do you do in the wintertime? And I'm asking about this personally because I keep thinking, well, I'll keep playing pickleball with my son.
Right. I think that we're going to try to play pickleball.
Snow and ice. Of course, maybe it melts. Maybe, it'll just be freezing and I just should dress for it better. But if there's not snow and ice. But what do you do in the wintertime?
Yeah, wintertime I don't do as much, but I'm going to play pickleball. And my girlfriend Valerie, she rides that bike thing. I did that a couple winters, the indoor bike thing, but so that's because it does get slippery. That's how I got my new garage because I stepped out into my front porch and flew off my front porch And the only thing that saved my life was this giant pizza box that I landed on that saved me.
How did a pizza box happen?
Because I was carrying a big cardboard, one of those big, huge cardboard. And somehow it like came underneath me. But then my husband decided, okay, we need an attached garage so we don't have to go out into the snow. I said, yes.
Yes. He did not want a wife with a broken back or broken hip.
Yes, because it's pretty slippery.
Skull.
Mm-hmm.
Skull
Around
fracture.
here in the winter.
Yes, yes. And you just, a lot of times, if it's just that thin sheet of ice, you can't even see it
you're right.
before you are hitting and
that's
sliding.
what it was, a thin sheet on the front steps. Mm-hmm.
And I actually have not been surprised like that until moving up here. I went to check the mail one time and I had snow boots on that have traction. Now, they didn't have the ice grips, like metal studs or something, but, they have traction. I've never slipped in my life going down this to go check the mail. And there, all of a sudden, my feet just flew out from under me so fast that I caught myself. Of course, it was all I could do, split second to just try to brace myself on a wrist. And of course, it hurt. And thankfully, I didn't break anything. But I recognized how easy it is for people that slip and fall. Like, it's so fast, so instant. You don't have time
to
catch yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that indoor garage is a great idea. Yeah. I started walking like a duck after that. Hope nobody sees me waddling down the hill. I think maybe a friend even gave me that suggestion. While there's ice, walk like a duck. Or a penguin or whatever it was.
Yes. It's dangerous.
So, yes. So now you have a garage you can just tiptoe out to and back out after getting in your vehicle. That's good. What is your best advice for showing warm hospitality to all of those that you invite over to your home? I think you've definitely mentioned one, which is warmly greet them at the door with a good stiff drink or a mocktail.
Yeah, just have your table set, and I make it really pretty, and it doesn't have to cost very much because I love the Goodwill and Salvation Army. All my dishes, so beautiful, all from the Goodwill. You can find just fabulous. You just kind of, beautiful crystal. I make it really pretty, flowers. I really enjoy decorating, but I've done it cheaply, and make it welcoming that way. And then the conversation, take interest in people, ask them about themselves. And then there's, of course, people that we've had that haven't talked. They're, like I've mentioned in the past. Oh, so that reminds me of a funny story. So we had people from England over. Everybody sitting around just absolutely silent. And so my husband and I, we had to go all the way back to like Henry VIII to try to get the conversation
Let's talk
going.
About your history.
Yeah. And then the one little boy, and when they did speak, they were hard to understand. Like I remember saying, "Oh, I'm in 5th grade and I don't like my teacher." So, okay, that's great. So they left after the evening. I thought this was just a total disaster. No, it was terrible. They had a terrible time. This is like, horrible. But then about a week later, I got a thank you note from them. And they said that the evening at your house and the meal was the highlight of our whole trip to the United States of America.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, what a surprise that was.
Because you felt like you were just giving it everything and you weren't really receiving much, but maybe they were just kind of overwhelmed and awed and just taking it all in.
Yeah, or
and
something.
Just loved
culturally, I just like, wow.
Loved your efforts. And felt, obviously they felt those efforts that you were trying to pour into them.
Yes, maybe so.
As being warm hospitality.
Yeah.
Do you have any certain questions that you ask? I mean, on the English couple you went, or the English family, you went back to their history, but do you have anything that you kind of keep in mind? Okay, I'm going to bring this up if people aren't talking.
Right.
Like, how do you kind of get a group to start talking?
Right. I think you ask about their family and their brothers and sisters and their parents and how they grew up and what kind of school they went to and what was have they traveled and where have they traveled and what was the highlights of their travels, or just or what's their interest, or do they play sports, or are they artists, or just
you just find something that they finally say something about, and then you latch onto it. Okay, tell me all about it,
right?
And then you can find some common things to talk about.
Right, exactly.
Yes, it's good advice. So what is your must-have kitchen item? You mentioned a lot of fun things from Goodwill, which I think is a great tip because not everything has to be purchased brand new, which is expensive. It can be, if you're saying, I want to buy a silver tray from Williams-Sonoma, well, you might can, or maybe you need 3 or 4 and you really should look at Goodwill or other estate sales, that sort of thing.
Right. So let's see. Well, as far as decorating, like I have lots of stuff I've gotten from the Goodwill, but I did invest in a couple of really nice tablecloths, and so it's nice to have a couple of really nice ones there. Oh, and another thing that I do is I paint all my furniture white, and it's a good way to have a lot of furniture that sort of blends together, like a lot of old furniture. And so my table's kind of ugly, so I have to cover it with tablecloth. But I would like to paint it white, but if it's an antique, and my dad said, you may not paint any more of the antiques that we give you white. So I have to obey. Although 2 weeks ago, he freed me from that. He said, remember when I told you you couldn't paint anything else white? He said, I free you from that rule, and now you can go ahead. So I think I will paint my great-great-grandmother's antique table white. All this to say, okay, so must-have items. So in the kitchen, giant pots. I just have giant pots for cooking, pasta and rice. I bought a rice cooker, or my daughter got me a rice cooker, but it only does about 8 cups. And so I need to do
need the industrial size.
I need the industrial
the
size.
Restaurant size.
Of everything. Yeah, restaurant size of everything really helps. Yes. Yep. And we barbecue too, but we're terrible. We just buy the cheap barbecues from Walmart, and they last about a couple of years, and then we get rid of them. And we had a friend say to my husband, well, I'll teach you how to barbecue. I'm going to give you some advice. Now, do you have a Traeger? My husband said, no. And he said, well, then I can't help you. So we're not very good barbecuers. Mostly, things come in and they're burnt sacrifices. So anyway, giant things. I have giant pots and pans.
Well, back to your tablecloths. Where did you said you really wanted nice ones. What are your favorite ones, and where do you shop for them?
Oh, I guess Williams-Sonoma. I've just landed a couple of really nice ones that have lasted for years, probably like 30, 25 years now.
It would be hard to find a tablecloth used. I don't know that I've ever seen one at Goodwill. Not saying they don't sell them, but that kind of thing, tablecloths, napkins, those would be the things you would want to
and I buy lots
purchase.
I bought lots of nice cloth napkins. That's what I do. Always cloth napkins, except for maybe the kids' table. Although I do cloth napkins on the really special days for the kids' table. Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Right. But if you're serving lasagna or spaghetti, they do not get the white napkins.
Yeah, right. We get the paper. Yeah. But I do. Okay, that's the thing I try to do is make it really nice and pretty for the kids too on their table. Like make sure they have flowers, and because there's some kids that really notice, that it's special dishes and special, that it's fun and pretty
and
at their table too, and festive for them too. Yeah, so
do you grow flowers, or do you buy them at the grocery store?
Oh, I do both.
Shops?
Yeah, I have flowers in my yard, and then I buy them from the cutting garden. And right now it's pumpkins. We get pumpkins from the cutting garden, and from Safeway they had some nice ones. So we have a lot of pumpkins. We're around. Yeah.
How do you decorate your tables? What inspires you?
Let's see. So in the winter time, I do a lot of reds. I replace the carpets and curtains and pillows and dishes and pictures on the wall. I bring my reds in. And then spring comes, like March 21st, everything goes blue, all my pretty blues. Although I'm getting older, I'm thinking, this is kind of exhausting.
A lot of work to switch everything.
I might just stick with maybe my blues,
Maybe just change out a few red things.
Right. It's like, ooh. So, as I'm getting older, I go, how can I pare this down a little bit? But I went through all these old photographs and wow, I really did do a lot all those years. And I forgot how much that I did. Because when you first asked me to be on the podcast, I thought, I do nothing. I am like a failure.
Of course you would think that.
I'm so tired.
Yet
I don't
her
do anything.
List of accomplishments, I still haven't gotten through it all.
No, honestly, I couldn't think of a thing. But then looking through my photographs, I remembered my life.
I think we often do that to ourselves. We forget. Sometimes I do that just for one day. I feel like I have worked all day long. And then at the end of the day, I feel like, have I done anything? You look around and it's just still especially when you have young kids.
Oh,
at home.
yes. Oh, my
It's like,
goodness.
oh,
yeah.
I've just been working all day and I've done nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes
Just
when I would
maybe barely get
discouraged,
the
I'd
dishes.
make like a mental list, maybe even a written list. Okay, I did do dishes. I
Yes.
did do 3 loads of
Yes.
laundry. I did, help 3 kids take a bath or,
Right.
By
Exactly.
the time you list all the things that doesn't look like much when you look
Right.
around,
Yeah.
you really have
Yeah.
been working all day
Yeah.
long and doing
Yeah.
really good work.
Yeah. And I just want to encourage people, just have people into your homes, because even if your home is messy, because my home was kind of messy. Like, I'm kind of a messy person and not very organized at all. My brain, I mean, I've gotten better over the years, but not that much better. No. I'm kind of like a messy person. And I thought, oh dear, like what, people are just, but then one of my daughter's girlfriends said, oh, Mrs. Ryan, that's why I like to come to your house, because it's kind of messy and I felt comfortable there and like I could
Just so
relax.
cozy.
Yeah. So that was kind of funny to hear that. Like, oh, yeah. Well, what I would do back in the days, like I'd have the downstairs really nice, but the upstairs, like, ooh,
Be
don't
blitzed.
even go there. And I wish I had a rope, like a velvet rope in a museum, just not allowed to go. But
and maybe you could have.
yeah, but
Be a
yeah,
clear
and somebody
signal,
did
do
ask
not
one time.
cross.
Yes, somebody asked one time, could I see you upstairs? And I said, no.
No, you
Now,
can't.
maybe now they could come up now because nobody's
Well,
messing
you were
it up.
raising 7
Right.
children, and they were
Right.
truly living there, and so it's
Right.
hard to make it look
They
like
were.
a museum.
Yes,
Whenever
because I thought I have a messy bedroom. I can't ask my kids to have a clean bedroom. So it was like if they were naturally clean, their room was clean. But if they were naturally messy, it was messy because I didn't tell them.
until cleanup day.
Yeah,
Until it was time to really,
like our grandparents or something. Then anyway, there you have it. Just have people over. Don't worry about the mess. And people, well, they don't care really about the food either. They just want to come over. Like I remember like that same Ethiopian friend, they were saying how warm and friendly everybody was in Addis Ababa and how they would, but I thought I would just love to go over to their house, just anything. Please, they love Durham Pullman. For years, I was just hoping they'd invite us over. I was just
they
to have a
never
glass of water.
did?
No, they never did. I just would have died of happiness just to go
Experience
once.
their type of hospitality
Yes,
and
in their house.
home.
Just like even a glass of water, a cup of tea.
And yet they probably took on that American type of feeling of it's not nice enough.
Maybe,
or it's not
yeah.
good enough.
Right.
Or I can't do what she's doing.
Right.
Or
I don't
whatever.
know.
And
Yeah.
then just weren't hospitable like their country was. Or maybe they would have
Right.
even been in their own country.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Whew. Anyway, so just have people over, even if it's paper plates. Yeah. People love to come over.
Yep. Don't overthink it.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a story you would like to share? You've
I think I've
told
shared.
some amazing stories. Do you have any kitchen fails? Anytime
Oh, yes.
when it just hasn't
Yeah.
worked
Okay.
out?
This is what happened one time. I remember way back in the day, this is probably 20 years ago. I made this kind of Mexican bean casserole with, layers of, taco meat and and I thought it tasted. It was my famous casserole I'd always make, and I was having people over. I made 2 of them, and they're in the warming oven. And then the people never came. They never came. They were about 50 minutes late. And these are people that I kind of wanted to impress because they're kind of dignitaries in town. And so I brought out my casseroles that had been in the warming oven for about an hour. And I think they had shrunk down to about a half an inch tall, like just from just dehydrating. And there they were, and then the hard part was the man, kind of the dignitary in town, looked at it and said, "Hey, where's the steaks?" Meaning like, aren't you going to serve a steak dinner? And here's these shriveled casseroles. And so that was, I think, the most embarrassing moment, or one of the many embarrassing, but the one I can remember.
The one that stands out the most.
Yes, it stands out the most.
Did they taste okay, or were they all dried out?
Pretty dried out. Yeah. And then surprise guests. Oh yeah. Oh, because one night I thought I'm just having my family, so I'm going to do this is probably 15 years ago. I'm just going to do the baked potato with all the toppings with, and that'll be just be a really easy, fun meal. But then some people came over, and I think I had 4 or 5 more people, and all I had to serve them was just one. And I looked at it, just one lousy baked potato with hardly any toppings. And so that was kind of one of those nights, like, whoo.
When you had been planning like 2 per person or something,
yeah, right,
or
right.
1.5,
or if it's just your family, like, hey, this is fine, but baked potato. But
you're
I
having
think
to
once
spread
again,
it
I think
out.
I remember looking at some of the people's faces, and they didn't seem to mind at all. They were just, I think, once again, just glad to be there at our table. So
They can always eat a snack when they get home.
Yes.
Go home and get a snack or a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, exactly. Mhm.
Yes, I think that's one thing that always horrifies me is that I won't have enough food. And so I
Right.
end up, I have run out of food like you, but also I think now my problem is that I plan way too much.
Too much
And
food.
I still cannot get over that because I'm just terrified. If a recipe says that it's for 6,
Yes.
I know when I had Katie on here before, she does catering, and she said, if you've made the recipe and you know the quantity that it will feed, you can trust the numbers, which is true. If you know that it will say feed 6 grown adults, trust those numbers. Don't multiply it times 5 if you're only having, 18
people
over or 8 over or whatever. But if I'm making one that I'm not sure, or if I haven't made in a while, or it's new, I just go a little bit insane. So I recently made a half-baked harvest recipe and made 4. There was a family that was sick, but ended up having 7 people and had quadrupled
the recipe.
for 7 people.
Oh my goodness.
It probably served 6 to 8. I mean, at the most, I should have doubled it.
Yes. That's great. But the good thing about that is leftovers.
Yes.
See, I like to be able to give my kids after the Sabbath meal, a bunch of food to take home so that they could have for lunches the next day or for their, So that's the good thing.
I actually love that too. So
leftovers.
I ended up, before I put all the ingredients in, I did end up freezing half the meat, and then I did send with my son and daughter-in-law. I wrapped up a bowl and just tried to send leftovers to anybody that needed or wanted some. So that is fun. I enjoy that because then they don't have to cook the next day.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Or if they're going to school, if it's a college kid or a high school kid, they have an immediate lunch that's all wrapped up and ready to go.
Yeah.
Because I always try, another tip for me is I always try to have something I can send that I don't need back. So for instance, you could find cheap Tupperware, plastic containers.
Yes.
I have saved lunch meat sometimes comes in plastic containers. I don't really buy that brand so much anymore. Usually I get some from Costco and then break it up in different packages that we freeze. But you can, you can save containers from things you've bought from the store. Like I've saved sour cream containers or cottage cheese containers. And so, you can put soup in there and just tell them, throw it away when you're done with it.
Yes, that's what I do too. I don't want to have to. I'm not good at getting things back, so I don't want them to have to get it back to me for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if it's something you're going to do regularly, you can go to a restaurant supply and buy all different kinds of containers that are to-go containers.
Exactly.
Which would be really fun if you had a regular Sabbath meal and you were sending leftovers home. Although you may not have very many leftovers anymore with that crowd.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness.
Yours has definitely morphed into quite the event.
Yeah. And it's kind of a crazy stage. Wow. It's kind of hard to invite other people over on the Sabbath meal night. I usually have them separately if we're going to have company another day, because one time we invited some of Paul's track friends from Washington State over, and they just sat there in shock. It's just shocking, just how much noise and how much activity
and how many little children.
Yes, and how many. Things. Yeah, whew, if you're not used to it, it's quite the thing. Yeah. And it won't always be like this. They'll soon grow up into teenagers, but right now it's pretty wild and crazy.
Yes.
And fun, but
They may, again, it could be years later that you hear from those kids who thought it was the most amazing event ever. It looked like they were in shock, but maybe they're in awe and just like, this is the coolest event I've ever been to. Wow.
Maybe. Oh.
Well, speaking of your son training for the Olympics, I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but your reference to the Chariots of Fire made me think of it. You said that the Olympics, if he qualifies, will be in Paris.
Right, yeah.
And what is the cool fact about that?
Oh, yeah. So 100 years ago, Eric Liddell was a Christian man, and he ran in Paris during the Olympics. And he actually knew ahead of time that the heats were going to be on Sunday. And in the movie, they make it look like it was that day, this is a matter for the committee. But actually, he knew ahead of time, and he protested ahead of time to move his heat. And his friend, the hurdler, he did give up his race for Eric Liddell. But anyway, all this to say, it's 100 years later, and the Olympics coming up in Paris. Our son Paul hopes to make it in the mile, and he's one of the top milers in the world. Yeah, and so he hopes to make it next August to Paris for the Olympics. Yeah,
that is so exciting. And was that the event that Eric Liddell ran? Was the mile?
Right? No, he was a sprinter.
He was a sprinter.
He was really fast, 100, 200, 400, and he made it, I think, in the 100, but his friend, somehow he must have qualified for the 400 too, because his friend gave up his race, the 400-meter spot for him somehow. I don't think you could do that now. You have to. Well, maybe you could in Great Britain. Yeah. But in the United States, you have to qualify in the Olympic trials in June, and then the top 3 go in August. And in Great Britain and a lot of the Commonwealth countries, they just look at who's been the best over the last year or 2, and they'll just they pick you. Yeah. So
Anyway.
That
is so interesting and something to look forward to watching. Mm-hmm. Are we able to watch the qualifications, or is that something that happens?
That'll be
televised?
It'll be televised in June, and it's in Eugene, Oregon, at this fantastic new stadium that Phil Knight, who started Nike, he built this stadium for track, and it's this beautiful stadium. It's a really fast track. Mm-hmm.
That is so exciting.
Yeah.
I'll have to put it on my calendar.
Yeah, put it on your calendar. And then Adidas pays Paul to run. And on Paul's website, he has All of Christ for All of Life, along with his Adidas moniker. And so he's running for God and hoping for the best.
That is wonderful.
And clean. He's a clean athlete. Mm-hmm. So that's another topic for another time.
That's difficult in sports.
When
you're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, trying to do the right thing.
Of people around you who aren't.
Most people are cheating, a lot of drugs, but Paul's doesn't do that. And his coach is a good, honest, ethical coach too. And really good, world-class coach. Yeah, down in San Diego. But anyway, there you have it.
What are they called? If we were going to look them up in June, do you know a channel or the name of the event, or do we just maybe Google
Olympic trials? Yeah, Eugene, Oregon. It'll be in June, and it'll be on a major network.
Maybe ESPN or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, and maybe even afterwards we could see it on YouTube. Who knows? They put a lot of things on places like that, where you can watch it after the fact.
Yes, exactly.
But hopefully we can catch it live.
Yeah. Ooh, nerve-wracking.
Yes. Oh, for you especially. I can't imagine being mom on the sidelines.
Yeah, I know. Because it's kind of a gamble. The long-distance running, a lot of the guys that did really well last year are injured this year. And then the guys that were injured last year did really well this year. There's a lot of,
so injuries can really throw
sickness, injury. It can really
into things.
Yeah, so.
Well, good things to look forward to. Thank you so much for joining me and telling us all about your hospitality. It's just, there's so many encouraging things here. I think I'm very encouraged to go and exercise every day so that I have as much energy as you do and as much joy in doing it. I mean, you are an incredible example of both of those things. Just continuing to have the joy after years and many, many events and hardships and fails, having joy, and then just continuing to keep yourself fit in order to have energy for it. I think both of those are just really great testaments to all of the rest of us.
Woo. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It has been a pleasure. Until next time, bye for now.